Hello, you're watching Inspired Humboldt, where we shed light on local cultural creatives who are uplifting and changing our community through creativity, consciousness raising, and holistic healing.
This is Patrick Walsh, and I'm Casey McLean, and we are part of a rising community, a local nonprofit, and one of the many Dreammaker projects of the Ink People. We'd like to thank the Ink People today for the use of this space and for the many ways they support us, and also to the Mars Project for videoing, editing, and all things technical.
So today our guest is Jen Madrone. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Of
It's
course.
really fun to be here.
Yeah. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you came to be in Humboldt?
The Humboldt story is probably a pretty typical Humboldt story, I'm guessing. I've heard different variations of it. When I was 21, I left the East Coast. I'd become very disillusioned with mainstream society, with religion, with college. So I left school and we were headed to the Grand Canyon for a drum festival, and we missed it. We didn't make it. And so we came to Arcata instead because my friend had a friend here. And I'd never been to California. I'd never been to the West Coast. And I definitely had never seen the redwoods before. And so that first day we went to the redwoods, we went to the forest, and I fell in love, as I think everybody does. And I remember sitting there and talking to the trees and saying, look, I'll be back. I'm not ready to settle down yet. I'm not ready to stay, but I'll be back. And so I traveled for another 2 years and then serendipitously ended up back in Humboldt, back in Arcata, and then down in southern Humboldt for about 18 years, where I raised my kids and we did the back to the land thing and, grew our food. And at that point, that was when I kind of started looking at the other things that I wanted to learn when I came to Humboldt, leaving behind that whole other life. I was like, wow, there's a whole world out here of things that I want to learn and do. And so I started with an herbal medicine apprentice program with Jane Bothwell, that was 22 years ago, and she's still doing it. She's amazing. So, and then from there I did massage therapy, and that kind of just launched my path into alternative medicine.
Oh, that makes me want to ask you more questions. But just because of that, you talking about your connection to the trees, and your last name is Madrone, and you're doing this herbal. You want to talk a little bit about that and Jane, that path, just a little bit?
Yeah, coming from the East Coast, I'd always been a kid who was in the forest and climbing rocks and all of that, but there's not much big nature there. It's very limited. And so coming here was like coming home, and then immediately finding Jane and her program, it was like finding the lost part of myself, really,
So if people, I'll ask you these questions later about your other work, but if people work with you, do you work with that?
I don't so much use the herbal medicine the way that I used to. It's kind of something that I just use at home right now. Sometimes the plants come into the journeys that I do when I'm doing energy work, so I'll work with the energy of the plants. So having that relationship with them is really fun too.
Yeah. So actually, what I really wanted to ask you about first is your sound healing and how you got into it and your experience with that, because you've done so many things around town.
Yeah, thanks. It's my passion. I love it. So I started, with massage therapy, like I mentioned, and just kind of started adding modalities to it. And at some point I experienced the tuning forks, and I decided I needed that in my life, that I had to have that. And that is the perfect adjunct to massage because you can use it on the body. You can use it for pain and tight muscles and, endless amounts of things. So eventually I started studying acutonics, which is a tuning fork system that uses the planetary frequencies. And so all of the tuning forks are tuned to different frequencies of the planets that uses NASA calculations. And they all have a different effect on the body. And so you can use them the way you use acupuncture needles on the points and meridians. To open the meridians, you can use them, like I said, to relieve pain, to relieve swelling, in the energy field, to relieve stress, to help shift energetic patterns of old trauma. It's really endless how you can use the tuning forks. And so when I realized how much potential the tuning forks had and the planetary frequencies had and the effect that they were having on me as I was learning them and using them on myself, I then got introduced to the gongs during that same Acutonics program because they're planetary gongs. And as soon as I heard them, that was it. So I became that person with the gongs and the bowls and the bells and the whistles and the drums, and never really thought I'd be that person. But that's kind of how my life has ended up, is just following one thread to the next, to the next, to the next. And so I use the tuning forks and the sound very heavily in my private sessions with people and weave it all together, and that's really fun. And I really love doing the group sessions as well. And so I've been doing more of those, and it blends so well with almost everything. We've blended it with yoga and with plant medicine and just standalone, and it's been really fun.
Because it's so basic. Like when I had the tuning forks, or when I've been to your gong healing, because I also got to have one inside of a building, which was kind of even stronger. Mm-hmm. Like there's no denying that the vibration brings you in and in touch with the body in a way that's easier than, it gives you something to sort of anchor into.
Exactly, because these are all frequencies that we are made of. We come from the planets. They're all within us. So when we hear them, it's almost like coming home. And they also help to adjust our inner frequency back to our resonant vibration, back to the kind of like that original pattern that we came onto this planet with.
Coherence.
And so that's why you felt what you felt. It was completely perfect.
So you've done some events for the community at some of the local beaches and stuff like that. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really glad to be able to be doing events again inside. But during COVID, I felt like we needed to keep it going at least a little bit in whatever way we could. And so I think it was the spring equinox that we started the first one. And so we've been doing them outside at Moonstone Beach on the equinoxes and the solstices. We skipped the winter solstice because it's just too cold. But other than that, this will be our actually third one tonight. And I just gather whatever local gong players want to come and hang out and play. And it's a very casual in the sense that nobody has to pre-register. They can just show up, and it's such a fun community offering because it's easy, and so many people come that I would never see in my office, that I would never see at other sound events. There's been a lot of random people that have been on the beach that come talk to me afterwards and just speak about, the synchronicity of being there at that time and the effect that it had on them. And I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite events. And so tonight we're going to have 7 gongs and 5 gong players. So that's the most so far. And I think they're all planetary gongs. And we usually start about an hour before sunset and play till sunset. And there's something really magical that happens as the sun's setting. And everyone, may be laying down or they may be facing the gongs. And slowly as the sun starts to set, people just one by one turn to face the sun. And it's really, really beautiful. So I'm excited about that tonight. And that's just something that we'll keep doing for, as long as possible.
It's actually kind of an interesting experience because there's so much beauty all around you. So you have the
Right.
community and the gongs, and then you have the beach and the sunset. So it's
It's
sort of like all
breathtaking.
encompassing.
Yeah, it really is. And then the waves are adding to it. They're
Right.
just playing with us. And I mean, the waves alone are amazing sound healing.
Yeah.
So it's such an honor to be there and co-creating with everybody and with nature, of course.
Yeah, and the nature and the beach, because each time the formation of the beach has been kind of different. So
Yeah.
it's been fun to go and see where Moonstone is. That might.
Exactly. And then the stones behind the gongs and the way that the gongs play off of the stones is
Totally.
Oh yeah, and the first time
amazing.
there were climbers climbing up. Oh, yeah, so cool.
Yeah, there's usually, people and dogs and kids running
Surfers.
around, which is so beautiful in affirming that, healing should just be part of the community.
Yeah.
It should be something that we can do together. It doesn't have to be super structured all of the time. And we can find these healing moments like wherever we are.
And it doesn't have to be so serious either.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
it's a beautiful thing you created. I mean I know you have collaborators. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So I also want to talk a little bit about your coaching and what you do with what you have offered to individuals. And
Yeah, thank you. So I'm what I would call myself a spiritual wellness coach. And I started a few years ago kind of naively diving into the world of online, coaching and that sort of thing. Didn't really have any idea what I was getting into. And didn't know exactly what I was going to teach and what kind of fell into my lap. And what I found to be a really big need, it was that I was connected with helping people who were going through the really challenging part of the spiritual awakening process. And I found that we live in a bubble here in Humboldt. And even in Humboldt, when I started doing this and I would explain it to people, they'd kind of look at me. This was a few years ago, like, not quite sure what I'm talking about. And now it's just exponentially, people are waking up. It's become much more mainstream. And most people know what you're talking about. But in different parts of the country, I've connected with people who are going through this. I have no idea what's happening to them. They have zero support. Their family might think that they're losing their mind. They take them to the psych ward. They try to put them on meds or something like that. And then they find, a group of people who are going through the same thing, and it changes their lives. So that's my work online, is really helping people through that process, helping them understand what's happening to them, and really giving them like a spiritual foundation for the personal growth that they'll be going through really for the rest of their lives, So I'm working on mixing some sound into that, but I don't really have the tech skills at this point, and the gongs on Zoom aren't really don't work so well. So slowly I'm gonna kind of weave that together, but that's been a big chunk of the work that I've been doing as well. And really that started with my private sessions here in Arcata a couple of years after, probably about 10 years ago. And it was I really was at the tail end of my challenging part of my spiritual awakening process. And I feel like there's no end to it. It just keeps going. But for me, the really massive symptoms and the difficult part, I was just coming out the other end when people started showing up in my office with these really strange symptoms. And they're like, I feel like I'm having a panic attack, but it's not really a panic attack. I feel like I'm having a nervous breakdown, but it's not really a nervous breakdown. I have all this energy moving through my body. I'm depressed, but it's not really depression. And I knew exactly what they were talking about. And it was super eye-opening for me, because I was like, wow, this isn't just me. This wasn't just something I'm going through. This is happening, And so I also found that I loved working with people that are going through massive transformation. And so it kind of started in my office with my massage work and energy work. And at that point, I think it was mostly Reiki and alchemical healing work was the energy work that I was doing at that point. And so then it just kind of kept exponentially going from there.
I feel like it's really important work because we live in a dominant paradigm that's very external seeking, and sometimes even just asking people to come into the body is a whole new territory. And in Buddhism, it's like they talk about you need sangha, you need spiritual community, because you get to some point and you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's next, because the dominant paradigm is not talking about it. You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah. Not only are they not talking about it, but for that individual, the dominant paradigm kind of disappears because it no longer holds any truth for them. And so there's that the thing that's been their foundation for their whole life is gone.
yeah. And then no next guidance or information.
Exactly. So that's why the Sangha and the community is so vital and so important.
Yeah, it's good work.
That's awesome. You also have a YouTube channel?
I do, yeah. So these are on my YouTube channel. It's just Jen Madrone. Are the videos from my Facebook page that I've done for my group. And so my group's called Diving Through Death. So the playlist on the YouTube channel is Diving Through Death, and you can just kind of scroll through and read the titles and find what, if people have certain questions about awakening, or just kind of scroll through and see what resonates with them. It's just different topics about maybe the symptoms of the awakening process, or different ways that they can help move themselves through trauma, or whatever's coming up for them. And so the best way is just kind of look. There's a lot of videos there, so you can just kind of scroll through and read the titles and see what.
What is your YouTube channel?
It's just Jen Madrone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think there's one other Jen Madrone. I think she's a German DJ.
Also, either one you get is cool.
Exactly.
That's funny.
That's great.
Both having to do with sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to talk about some of the collaborators, your collaborators?
Yeah, there's a lot. In this community, it's been so supportive. When I started going through the Acutonics program, and I worked with some teachers in the Bay Area, Marjo Lack, who's a practitioner up here and also an amazing DJ, so you should have her on here sometime. Yes. She was really a mentor to me as I was going through that program, and we've done a little bit of collaborating together. She's a busy woman. And then Shemaya Skywalker, and we are collaborating on Monday, and so it's really fun because we have very different styles, so it's really fun to bring them together. She has more of a musical background, and then with my sound healing, it's more intuitive because I don't have that musical background, and so weaving that together makes a completely different experience.
Shallow, right? Oh, and you maybe have a couple spaces left.
I think that it might be full, but people can check and see. I think it's full at this point. Okay. And then Drea Silvestri is someone that I collaborate with a lot. I love doing sound with her, and we'll do microdosing events together, and then other gong players, like tonight we're going to have Nicole Love playing her gong for the first time, and Georgia Sliker and Chris, who's Kali Shakti's husband, is going to bring his gong, and Drea will be there. So there's more and more gong players. It's definitely growing, and so that's really exciting. And let's see. Denise Oliver Payne, she's my Reiki master and teacher, and she's a sound healer as well, and she was a really big inspiration to push me to start teaching Reiki classes. So she's a really amazing person in the community as well. Oh. Yeah, she's in McKinleyville. Oh. Yeah.
We have so many cool people.
So many cool people. Yeah.
Okay.
So how can people follow you and keep up on your events?
Mostly, especially right now, it's been social media. So it's been Instagram and Facebook. Both are Jen Madrone or Inner Alchemy Healing and Sound. They've been filling so fast that I haven't even gotten the email out to my email list, just because everyone is so ready to have these events together again and together again. So that's really the best way, but I do try to get my emails out to people who aren't on social media. So you can always contact me and have me put you on the email list. And that's probably the best way, is the Instagram and the Facebook.
Great.
Yeah,
We'll
and
put those links.
yeah, and then the Diving Through Death Facebook group for people who are going through the challenging part of awakening. That's a good resource too to check out.
Yeah, I'm gonna go follow your YouTube channel. So what inspires you to do this work? What has it like been the impetus of all this?
I just can't not do it, is the thing. I've constantly been kind of nudged by the universe out of my comfort zone, over and over again. There's been times where I'm like, really? I have to do live videos on Facebook? I have to like get up and talk in front of people? Like, are you kidding me? And it's just like been that nudge from the universe, is like, no, this is what you're supposed to do. And I've just been following it, and then definitely inspired by, everyone else who's doing similar work, who's stepping up, who's facing their fears. And, now is the time that we need as many people speaking their truth and offering, amazing things from the heart as possible. And so every single person who steps up and every single person who steps into the transformation process, even though it's terrifying, it totally inspires me. And then nature is definitely my biggest inspiration. Like whenever I'm feeling kind of blocked or, just need something, I can go into nature and get that. And so that's why I love living here, is because everywhere you turn there's a beautiful spot to go fill yourself and let go of whatever heaviness may be accumulating at the moment through this crazy life of ours.
Yeah, and just get coherent back into a better vibration.
Yeah,
Like we just
exactly.
have beaches and rivers and
Yeah.
forests and incredible energy. It just was out with the sea lions the other day.
Oh,
There's
wow.
like so many, and
Wow.
where the
Yeah.
river comes to the ocean and they touch the water and you go in there.
Wow, it's
So
amazing.
good.
Yeah, that the coherence you speak of is like, that's everything. And we don't have to go to a sound healing, although I recommend it. We can just go out into nature and just find that quiet and let go of all that outer chaos.
And one really cool thing about the events on the beach is that it's kind of like a double, it's like you're brought out into nature and you're brought into community and you're experiencing the healing. And so it's
Exactly.
like I said, and their beauty, and there's just a lot going on.
Yeah, nature just seems to amplify the vibration, the frequency, and the sound. And anytime I've played out in nature, it's just been mind-blowing. It's amazing. I just did a baby blessing out in Fieldbrook, and it was so beautiful, with the trees just speaking back and the birds, joining in, and all of that. That's something else that I've been doing since COVID, is more private sound healing groups. So I've done like birthday parties and weddings and baby showers and that sort of thing, and just going to people's homes and setting up and then providing that for their friends that they want to share that with. And it's been really fun.
I love all the creativity that's starting to come up with sound healing. Like I just saw the video you posted of somebody rapping with the bowls.
Oh, yes.
I'm just like, it's just
that was
creativity's pushing forward. And all these,
I love that. That was Born Eye is his name. That's the artist's name. And he's so good, so you should definitely check him out. When I saw him, I was just like, oh my God, I love you.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I love him too.
Sounds cool. So, if you could do anything and you knew you would succeed, what would you want to accomplish?
So if I could wave a magic wand, which is kind of what that question feels like, like you just handed me a magic wand, I would really use it so that everyone would learn to love themselves and connect with themselves as deeply as possible and to know the truth of who they really are. Because I feel like if everyone was able to do that, the entire planet would change instantly. Like there's no doubt in my mind. So it might sound cheesy, but that's exactly what I would do.
That's a great answer.
So in the meantime, we just keep doing the work that's handed to us and just keep, loving everybody around us and being that example.
Yeah.
Because self-love is one of the most amazing and most challenging journeys that we will ever embark on, and it's so important.
Definitely.
And so yummy.
And so yummy.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the show. It's been a pleasure having you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun, and it's been really fun to watch all your videos and to hear stories from people and faces that I've seen but never really knew what they're up to. So really glad you guys are doing this.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's what it's all about.
It's been so fun.
Yeah.
We're discovering everybody too. So
Right, yeah.
deeper, So we'll put the links below, and thank you so much for being with us.